Welcome to More Than a Few Words, marketing conversation for business owners. This is your host, Lorraine Ball. And today we're going to talk about all that money that you're wasting. Well, you're a business owner, and I know you don't like to think that you're wasting money, but today my guest, Jan Cavelle, says that you probably are. You may remember Jan. She was a guest on our show, I want to say at the beginning of the year. And I'm going to link to that other conversation, but I'm so excited that she's back. She is an entrepreneur from the UK who has decades of running micro and small businesses behind her. Building one from her kitchen table as a single mother of two children that turned into a multi-million dollar business. She's passionate about supporting other entrepreneurs and she's been involved in many campaigns. She's the author of two books, Scale for Success and Start for Success, aimed at helping aspiring and growing entrepreneurs everywhere. And she is a guest author for me in the new collection of essays, Even More Written Words. Jan, welcome back to the show.
Lorraine, it's lovely to be back on the show, and also thank you while I have the opportunity of allowing me to be a guest author on your book. It's lovely to be involved.
You know, one of the things that I have loved about podcasting and about creating these essay collections is I have just had a chance to work with and connect with so many knowledgeable, fun people. And I just love the conversations.
Isn't it great? Yeah, I mean, it's one of the reasons I do podcasting. You meet such amazing people.
Absolutely. And so we'll move off of the love fest a little bit and, and switch to this topic that I think is really important. And that is that so many small businesses are wasting time and money on marketing, and they need to stop doing that.
They
So, how do you
do.
think?
They do, but it's so easy to do, Lorraine. If you go networking or if you go on social media, there are 6 million people ready to pounce on you and tell you that you're doing everything wrong. And if only you spend money with them, life would be entirely different.
Absolutely. So, how do you get it under control? Because you're bombarded by all of this information. How do you put a frame around it and make it manageable and productive?
Well, I think one of there are all sorts of aspects of that one. I mean, going back to social media and networking and things, I would say very briefly that, it's one thing to stop and listen to an expert with decades of experience like yourself. But, it doesn't take 2 seconds to work out that for 9 out of 10 of the people who approach you on social media, or certainly me, they're trying for their first job. And, to be honest, if you've got a business that you care passionately about, would you put any bit of your business in the hands of somebody who's just on their first job? No, you wouldn't. So I think be very careful on your due diligence if you're
So,
thinking at all about spending money.
so you're saying that the first thing is there's a million get rich quick schemes. You need to be a little bit skeptical
Yep,
and look into the credentials and really dive into the offer and figure out, is this legit?
absolutely. I mean, certainly sort of talking Facebook, for example, I get several a day. And, half the links say, go to X website, and X website doesn't even exist. So it's pretty easy to chuck them out.
Hmm. Okay, so we've sort of screened out the real sketch and the real scammy kind of stuff, but there's still a lot of legitimate choices, and it may be a perfectly viable tactic, but how do I make sure it's a perfectly viable tactic for me?
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of things that come into play here. I think you know your market, I would hope, better than they do. So For example, where they socialize, be it again going back in person, or whether they're a LinkedIn, it depends on your business, or whether they're solely on Facebook or TikTok Mad or whatever, and it again, just talking at a very basic level of screening, if the person approaching you is trying to sell you LinkedIn when you're selling to Gen Z on TikTok, they ain't done their research and they're not worth doing business with, you know. So again, it's just a little bit, and don't, however well it's sold to you and however much they make you feel, if only, oh my goodness, I wish I was better, don't take it on board. They're the ones who are actually doing the lack of research, the lack of knowledge.
That's a really good point, that there are a lot of marketing campaigns targeting small business owners that really play to the fear and the insecurity
They do.
of the business owner. And I think that you're raising that as a really important red flag. If you're having a conversation with a potential marketing supplier and you're feeling that fear, you need to step back, I think, and figure out, okay, am I afraid because I legitimately should be afraid? Or is this something that they're tap dancing on my emotions?
Absolutely. I mean, 9 out of 10 of them take the approach of, you've got such a wonderful business and we'd love to see it do as well as it deserves.
Hmm.
Come on, see past it.
Hmm.
Um,
Yes, no, don't get brainwashed by that fear of missing out.
yeah, definitely.
Okay, so what can I do to take control of this and maybe positively, proactively manage my marketing so that I'm not wasting money, but I'm really getting the biggest bang for my buck?
I think, another mistake that so many small businesses make is not to measure results,
Yes.
sadly.
Yeah.
And that's the easiest way to make money. Chuck a bit here, chuck a bit there, and you haven't a clue if or where any leads are coming from. And very simple, very basic systems. I mean, don't be done on a spreadsheet if you're not madly technical or
Mhm.
knowledgeable or want to spend money on anything, but you need to know what works. And you want to track it the whole way through the sales pipeline because, again, you can create. You're laughing, but it's true, isn't it? And people make these basic mistakes. You can produce 5,000 leads, which are
Mhm.
fantastic, and you're so pleased for yourself, and you're so busy answering all those questions, and not one of them bites. They're entirely the wrong leads. And that again is something that a lot of these guys who are selling you stuff will do, because they will mass produce entirely the wrong leads. It's a bit like, I know the sort of classic example of that is buy 10 million Instagram followers, isn't it?
We actually had a client who came to us and he had spent money to build his email list and to get followers on Instagram.
Yeah,
And so he came to us. He says, I have this great email list. I have this big following. And so we built a campaign that used email and used social media, and particularly Instagram, because that's where he was. And we came to find out when we uploaded the list and sent the first campaign, the we were using Constant Contact, came back and they blacklisted 90% of his list because it was just garbage.
yeah.
And they were like, you did not generate this organically, you bought this list. And when I went back to him, he was like, well, they were going to put a thing on my website, but that was going to take too long, so they said I could just buy this list.
Yeah, I mean, well, you probably haven't been there. I remember doing it myself and being talked into buying a list some sort of 30 odd years ago. It sounded so brilliant, because
Well,
they are all very convincing. And, to buy 1,000 or whatever it was, red hot contacts who are just right, complete with all the names and everything else. And again, for 90% from bounced.
Well, and the thing that I think is hard for people is you can buy a physical mailing list. Here in the US, you can target by geographic areas, and you can buy, or even lots of other demographic
Mm,
information. You can get a pretty good list, and you can mail them a physical piece of mail. But the internet and digital marketing doesn't work that way. And I think that's where people take advantage of that lack of knowledge.
yeah, no, absolutely. And how much, we've tightened up on GDP and,
Mhm.
the sort of permissions and all that. But still, first email you're not probably going to get done for, providing it's covered with unsubscribe here, but all that work, or if you had, imagine if you hadn't set an auto unsubscribe on that, how many hours would you spend depressingly stopping all those emails going out a second time?
Absolutely.
I think the most important message of all is to think, you know target, target, target. Because if somebody gets 5 red hot leads that buy, that's worth 5 million leads that are wrong and don't buy.
Absolutely. And with that, I'm going to put a pin in it. Jen, this has been fabulous. Thank you so much for being a part of the show.
Lorraine, it's my absolute pleasure. It's been lovely to see you again.
It absolutely has. And I'm going to tell everyone, if you are curious about any of the things that Jan has been talking about, you definitely want to check out her website, jancavelle.co.uk, and there'll be a link in the show notes. And look for her chapter in the upcoming release of even more written words. Jan, thanks for being a part of the show.
Lorraine, I'm thrilled to be. Thank you very, very much.
Oh, this was so much fun. And if you're looking for other resources for your business, be sure to check out our toolbox. Look for MTFW wherever you listen to podcasts. This has been another episode of More Than a Few Words. Thanks for listening.